There comes a point in every life when the world grows silent, and the weight of your own dreams begins to scream louder than anything else. It's in that silence that most people give up. Not because the dream isn't real. Not because they aren't capable. But because quitting is easy when no one is watching. Quitting feels safe when your vision is too big to hold in tired hands. But the future, the real future, the one that changes everything, never belonged to the quitters. It belongs to the one who refuses to bow, refuses to stop, refuses to surrender their destiny. People love to romanticize success. They imagine it like a clean climb up a smooth mountain, neat, predictable, comfortable. But the truth is brutal. The path to greatness is not a gentle rise. It's a storm. It's wind against your chest. It's the darkness at 3 a.m. when doubt crawls under your skin. It's walking alone while the world laughs at your dream. It's bleeding when no one cares, grinding when no one claps, believing when the world gives you every reason to let go. That is what separates the names history remembers from the names it forgets. Refusing to quit is not about strength you're born with. It's about strength you forge. It's about standing in the fire and deciding that nothing, no pain, no setback, no betrayal, will tear the dream from your hands. Because the world bows, eventually, to the stubborn soul that doesn't stop walking forward. Look at Thomas Edison, failing thousands of times before a single filament glowed. Look at Abraham Lincoln, losing elections, facing humiliation, carrying grief heavier than most men could bear, and still standing. Look at Walt Disney, rejected over and over again, laughed out of rooms that would one day beg to have his name on their walls. Their power wasn't talent alone. It wasn't luck. It was the refusal to quit when quitting would have been easier than breathing. Every dream worth having will push you to the edge. Every goal that truly matters will test how much pain you're willing to carry. That's not a punishment. That's the price of becoming the kind of person who can hold what you say you want. The dream is not denied to you. It's demanding proof. It wants to know if you'll keep walking when the ground breaks beneath you. This world has a quiet rule. The path clears for those who don't turn back. It won't open for those who hesitate. It won't reward the one who almost made it. It bends only for those who refuse to let go. Persistence is not glamorous. It's not pretty. It's sweat, scars, and silence. But it builds a power that no failure can break. The truth is, your dream doesn't need perfect conditions. It doesn't need endless support. It needs your decision. One decision. The decision to keep moving. Because the difference between those who build empires and those who die with regret isn't a single lucky moment. It's thousands of quiet moments where they kept going. Quitting is seductive. It whispers softly when the pain gets heavy. It tells you that you've done enough, that it's not your fault, that the world was against you anyway. It makes you feel justified in stepping away. But if you listen to it, if you give it space, quitting will take everything. It will take your fire. It will take your future. And it will leave you with nothing but what ifs. The one who refuses to quit walks a different path. Their power is silent. They don't need applause to move. They don't need permission to continue. They move because they've already decided the fight is not over until they win. They move because they understand that the dream is not something they visit, it's something they become. You see, refusing to quit is not just about survival. It's about transformation. It's about becoming the kind of person whose very presence tells the world, I will not break. It's walking into storms with your head held high, not because you enjoy pain, but because you understand what lies on the other side of it. History is a graveyard of quitters. People who were close. People who almost made it. People who turned back one step before the breakthrough. But it is also a cathedral built by those who refused to give up, those who fell down 1,000 times and stood up 1,001. When the world said enough, they said more. When Henry Ford was called a fool for building a machine that no one believed in, he didn't argue. He didn't explain. He built. When Andrew Carnegie was told that a poor boy couldn't rise in a steel empire, he didn't quit. He climbed. When Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination, he didn't quit. He drew. They didn't just fight for their dreams. They outlasted the world that doubted them. Because here's the truth no one likes to say. Talent may start the journey, but endurance finishes it. Inspiration may spark it, but resilience carries it. Intelligence may give you tools, but persistence builds your empire brick by brick. There's a moment in every great story where everything looks lost. where the hero stands alone, bloody, exhausted, staring into darkness. And every single time, the story turns not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because the hero keeps going. You are not exempt from this truth. Your story will not be written by what happens to you. It will be written by what you do when everything happens to you. The future does not belong to the talented. It does not belong to the lucky. It belongs to the relentless. It belongs to those who keep walking forward long after the world stops clapping. It belongs to the quiet, stubborn, unbreakable souls who keep swinging the hammer until the wall cracks. The fire that burns in you will be tested. You will question everything. You will face silence that feels like betrayal. You will face moments where it seems like the dream doesn't want you. But that's when you must remember, it's not the dream rejecting you. It's the dream refining you. Quitting is the language of the temporary. Persistence is the language of the eternal. And your future, the real future, the one you were born to build, speaks the language of the relentless. When the path gets dark and the noise around you fades, there's only one voice left that truly matters, the one inside you. The world can doubt you. Your friends can leave. Your plans can collapse. But if that voice inside refuses to quit, nothing can break you. That voice isn't just noise. It's your power. It's the whisper of the warrior that lives beneath the surface, waiting for the moment you stop asking for permission and start claiming what's yours. The foundation of refusing to quit isn't arrogance. It's belief. Unshakable, unmovable, unbreakable belief. Belief is the fire that doesn't need a crowd to burn. It's what keeps your feet moving when your strength is gone. It's what carries you across the finish line long after your body has said enough. Every empire that stands today was first built in someone's belief long before the world could see it. When Thomas Edison stood in the darkness after 1,000 failed experiments, belief kept his hands moving. When Abraham Lincoln was mocked, ridiculed, and defeated over and over again, belief kept him standing. When Walt Disney was rejected by bankers, ignored by investors, and dismissed as a fool, belief kept his pencil drawing. This is not magic. This is the raw, quiet, relentless force of a human being who refuses to quit. Most people quit not because the dream is too hard, but because their belief is too weak. They look at the mountain and talk themselves out of climbing before they've even taken the first step. But the one who refuses to quit doesn't wait for perfect conditions. They move in the storm. They climb through the rain. They carry their belief like armor. This is where clarity becomes your weapon. If your belief is the fire, clarity is the blade. You can't endure without knowing why you're fighting. You can't keep walking if you've forgotten where you're going. The world doesn't give up its treasures to those who wander without direction. It yields to those who carry a purpose so clear that nothing can fog their vision. When your vision is clear, your steps stop trembling. When your why burns bright, your excuses burn away. You stop caring how long it takes because you know exactly what you're building. That's why quitters lose their way. They're fighting for something they don't see clearly. But the relentless, they see it long before it exists. They touch it in their mind long before their hands do. Look at Henry Ford. They called him insane for dreaming of cars for the common man. But his vision was so sharp, so rooted in belief, that every failure was just a detour, not a dead end. Andrew Carnegie walked into boardrooms where he didn't belong and left owning steel. Napoleon Hill spoke of burning desire not as poetry, but as law. The law of the unbreakable. The law of the relentless. Belief without clarity is like fire with no direction. It burns out fast. But belief with vision, that becomes unstoppable. When you know what you're fighting for, when you can see it so clearly that it keeps you awake at night, you'll find a way through anything. Pain becomes pressure that forges you. Rejection becomes redirection. Failure becomes fuel. There will be nights when the world seems blind to your vision. Days when your reflection doesn't look like the person you want to become. Moments where the road feels endless and heavy. That's when your belief must be louder than your feelings. Feelings fade. Belief endures. People often say, "I'll keep going if it works." But those who change the world say, "I'll keep going until it works." That small shift is the difference between a quitter and a conqueror. One has conditions. The other has decisions. The world doesn't bend to conditions. It bends to decisions carved into stone. You must be willing to be that kind of person. The kind who doesn't need guarantees to keep walking. The kind who keeps fighting even when the world goes silent. The kind who says, "I will not stop," not as a slogan, but as a way of breathing. Because when belief is anchored deep, quitting isn't even an option. It's not something you negotiate with. It doesn't live in your vocabulary. You may bend. You may bleed. You may fall. But you will not break. That is the mindset of the unshakable. The world respects those who don't quit. Even your enemies will. Because there is something undeniable about a human being who refuses to go down. That kind of energy terrifies weakness. It commands respect. It moves mountains not because the mountain shrinks, but because you outlast it. Your belief must be so deeply rooted that when doubt knocks, it finds no room to enter. It must be so fierce that fear grows tired before you do. That is how destinies are built. Not with a single great act, but with thousands of small, relentless steps powered by belief that refuses to die. The mountain doesn't care about your talent. The storm doesn't care about your excuses. The world doesn't care about your fears. But they all move for the one who does not quit. There comes a moment on this journey when belief alone is not enough. It must transform into something harder, something unshakable, discipline. Because belief is the spark, but discipline is the fire that keeps burning when the night is cold and the world is silent. Discipline is the difference between those who talk about their dreams and those who build them. It is the quiet force that makes the impossible bend to your will. The one who refuses to quit doesn't wake up only when it's easy. They rise when it's hard, when it hurts, when no one else shows up. They move when motivation disappears. They act when their body says stop. Because discipline isn't about how you feel. It's about what you've decided. And those decisions build destiny. Every great person in history carried this iron in their blood. Thomas Edison wasn't lucky. He was relentless. Henry Ford didn't build his legacy because the world opened its doors for him. He broke them down, day after day, with discipline sharper than steel. Walt Disney didn't build magic with hope alone. He worked through rejection after rejection, drawing through sleepless nights, shaping his vision with unstoppable commitment. Discipline is what makes belief real. Anyone can believe when it's convenient. But when the wind turns against you, when everything around you seems to be breaking, discipline is the hand that keeps you walking forward. It's the hammer that cracks the walls that doubt builds. People love to dream, but most don't have the discipline to turn those dreams into stone. They light a match and walk away when it flickers. But the relentless, they build a furnace. They feed it. They protect it. They let that fire consume their excuses and shape their future. When your purpose burns bright enough, discipline stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like oxygen. It's not a punishment. It's the purest form of self-respect. It's saying to yourself, I believe in this vision so much that I will not betray it with laziness, fear, or comfort. That is how greatness is forged. Discipline is showing up when no one is watching. It's working on your craft when no one claps. It's running the race long after the crowd has gone home. It's pushing one more time when everyone else has quit. You must fall in love with the unglamorous parts of the journey, because that's where real strength is born. And once you master discipline, something unstoppable begins to build, momentum. Momentum is invisible in the beginning. No one sees it. No one notices. You take small steps, stacking brick on brick while the world looks the other way. But then, slowly, the tide shifts. The weight gets easier to carry. The fire gets hotter. What felt impossible becomes routine. What felt distant starts moving closer. Momentum is what separates those who get stuck in someday from those who make someday their reality. The world doesn't yield to the loudest dreamer. It yields to the one who keeps moving when everyone else stops. Step after step. Day after day. Without needing praise. Without needing permission. Think of Napoleon Hill writing through years of silence before the world echoed his words. Think of Andrew Carnegie climbing from a single telegraph job to a steel empire. Think of Abraham Lincoln losing more times than most would survive, and still walking forward with his head high. These men didn't wait for perfect conditions. They created their own momentum and let the world catch up. Momentum is the compound interest of discipline. The longer you stay in the fight, the more powerful it becomes. At first, you're pushing the weight. Then, one day, the weight begins to push you forward. Quitting can't give you that. Excuses can't give you that. Only relentless consistency can. And here is the part most people never understand. Greatness isn't built in a single explosion of brilliance. It's built in quiet, uncelebrated moments of persistence. It's built in the early mornings, the sleepless nights, the decisions to show up again and again when no one would blame you for stopping. Every time you refuse to quit, you add another layer of steel to your soul. This is why purpose matters so much. Purpose is what fuels discipline when everything else runs out. Purpose is the reason you get up when your body begs to stay down. Purpose is the force that makes impossible just another challenge to break. Without purpose, even strong people fall. But with purpose, even the weak can rise. Purpose doesn't come from the outside world. It doesn't come from applause or rewards. It comes from a decision inside you, a decision that says, I was not born to live small. I was not born to quit. I was born to fight for something bigger than myself. When you find that kind of purpose, quitting loses its grip. And when your purpose is clear, every setback becomes fuel. Every failure sharpens your edge. Every obstacle becomes a weight you grow stronger from lifting. The people who refuse to quit aren't fearless, they've just made their purpose louder than their fear. That's why the relentless are dangerous. You can't scare them with pain. You can't stop them with doubt. You can't defeat them with failure. They'll use everything against you and build with it. They don't walk around waiting for permission. They walk like they own the mountain. If you want the future to belong to you, you must become this kind of person. The kind who keeps walking after others turn around. The kind who builds discipline like armor and momentum like a storm. The kind who is fueled not by applause, but by something far deeper. The world bows to those who outlast it. Every empire was once a dream that someone refused to quit on. Every legend was once a person standing in the dark, choosing to keep going. Every revolution started with someone too stubborn to give up. Pain is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you who you really are when everything comfortable is stripped away. Anyone can smile when the sun is shining. Anyone can dream when the path is smooth. But when the storm comes, when the weight gets unbearable, when your knees shake and your heart wants to collapse, that is when the truth of your belief is revealed. That is the moment that separates the weak from the relentless. Most people run from pain. They hide, they complain, they quit. But the one who refuses to quit learns something the world never taught them. Pain is a teacher. It doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to forge you. Pain chisels away everything fake, everything shallow, everything weak. It carves out the person capable of carrying the weight of their destiny. Look at Abraham Lincoln walking through personal loss, political humiliation, and years of defeat before the world ever called him a leader. Look at Thomas Edison facing failure after failure, mocked and doubted, while holding on to his vision with bloody hands. Look at Walt Disney going bankrupt, rejected hundreds of times, ridiculed, and yet never letting go of the mouse, the dream, the spark that lived inside him. These men didn't escape pain. They used it. The relentless don't run from pain, they lean into it. Because they understand something most people will never grasp. Pain is temporary, but quitting is permanent. Pain will hurt, yes. It will burn, it will cut, it will make you question everything. But if you stay in the fight long enough, pain will hand you your power. Resilience is not built in easy seasons. It is born in the fire. Resilience is not the absence of pain, it is the decision to keep standing while it hurts. It is the moment you whisper to yourself, I'm not done yet, even when every bone in your body begs you to stop. Pain will ask you, do you still believe? It will ask you that when no one else is there to hold you up. It will ask you that when the dream looks like it's falling apart. And if your answer is yes, if your belief stands taller than your pain, something unshakable is born inside you. A strength the world can't take. Adaptability becomes your greatest weapon in these storms. Because refusing to quit doesn't mean the path will stay the same. It means your will does. The relentless don't cry when the road breaks. They build another one. They don't fold when a door slams shut. They break through the wall beside it. They don't stop when one plan fails. They rewrite the plan and keep going. Think about Henry Ford. His first company collapsed. His investors left. He was called a failure. But he adapted, refined his idea, and built something the world couldn't ignore. Napoleon Hill spent decades chasing a vision no one believed in, facing rejection and poverty, but he adapted, learned, grew, and his words have outlived the people who once mocked him. Greatness isn't about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down. This world doesn't belong to the ones who never face obstacles. It belongs to those who bend when life tries to break them, to those who flow like water around what others call walls. Quitting is rigid. Persistence is fluid. And like water, persistence carves through stone over time. You must stop seeing your setbacks as signs that it's over. They are proof that you are in the arena. Proof that you're fighting battles most people don't have the courage to face. You are not behind. You are becoming. Every bruise is a badge. Every scar is evidence that you stood when others fell. You must stop treating failure like the end. Failure is the forge where your character is built. Failure is the training ground of the relentless. The world doesn't bow to those who've never failed. It bows to those who have failed and failed again, but refuse to stop rising. Do not fear the low points. The low points are where legends are made. They are where you meet yourself without the mask. When everything else is stripped away, what remains is the raw, undeniable truth of who you are. That is where your strength is waiting. You must learn to adapt not just your strategy, but your mindset. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start declaring, "This is happening for me." The storm isn't a punishment. It's preparation. It's making you sharper, tougher, clearer. It's pulling away everything that's not strong enough to come with you. When your back is against the wall, remember this: pressure creates diamonds. But only for those who refuse to crack. If you quit, the pressure crushes you. If you endure, the pressure makes you priceless. And here's the truth most people never accept: your pain, your setbacks, your struggles are part of the path, not detours from it. You cannot become who you're meant to be without them. You cannot build a destiny that belongs to the relentless while living like the fragile. You have to be willing to hurt for what you want. You have to be willing to bleed for what you believe. Every legendary story has chapters soaked in pain. Not one of them was written in ease. If Abraham Lincoln had quit, if Thomas Edison had quit, if Walt Disney had quit, their names would be lost to time. But because they endured, the world remembers them. That is the power of refusing to quit. The difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is often just this: when the ordinary break under pressure, the extraordinary take another step. When the ordinary curse the storm, the extraordinary learn to dance in it. When the ordinary quit, the extraordinary build. So the next time pain comes, don't hide. Look it in the eye and say, "I'm still here." The next time failure knocks, don't run. Open the door and tell it, "You're not the end of me. You're the beginning." The next time the world doubts you, smile, because doubt is fuel for the relentless. Refusing to quit is not about being fearless. It's about being brave despite fear. It's not about never falling. It's about rising until the ground itself stops fighting you. That's what the world responds to. That's what history remembers. Gratitude is not weakness. It's power. The relentless don't walk through storms bitter and broken. They walk through storms grateful for the fight. Gratitude is the weapon most people never pick up. It's what allows you to keep walking forward without poison in your heart. Because when your journey gets hard, and it will, bitterness is a weight that drags you down. Gratitude, on the other hand, makes you rise even when the world tries to bury you. Gratitude is not pretending everything is perfect. It's recognizing the strength being built in imperfection. It's understanding that the pain you feel today is shaping the person who will carry tomorrow's victories. It's knowing that every rejection is pushing you closer to where you truly belong. Look at Abraham Lincoln again, grateful for every failure that carved the leader inside him. Look at Thomas Edison, grateful for 1,000 failures, because each one revealed another way forward. Look at Walt Disney, grateful for closed doors, because they forced him to build his own kingdom. These people didn't curse their journey. They honored it. And the world honors them for it. Gratitude is quiet power. When everything around you falls apart, gratitude whispers, "You are still breathing. You are still fighting. You are still capable." It keeps your heart strong when your body shakes. It reminds you that even your lowest moment is proof you haven't given up. When you live in gratitude, failure doesn't own you. It grows you. Setbacks don't break you. They prepare you. You begin to see the storm not as punishment, but as proof that you are still in the arena while others have left the field. That mindset doesn't just make you strong, it makes you dangerous. Because the world can't break a grateful heart. And here's something most people will never understand. Gratitude isn't just for the good times. Anyone can be grateful when everything works. But true gratitude is forged when nothing does. It's when you're tired, wounded, and alone, and you still whisper, "Thank you for this chance to become stronger." That's where legends are born. Gratitude changes the way you move through pain. It stops you from seeing obstacles as walls and starts making you see them as steps. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's being built. When the world doubts you, gratitude tells you that their doubt is your fuel. When the storm rages, gratitude reminds you that storms don't last forever, but those who endure them do. And from gratitude, something even deeper begins to awaken: identity. Because the moment you stop letting the world define you and start defining yourself, you become unstoppable. The one who refuses to quit doesn't draw their identity from applause, from money, from status, or from ease. They build it from fire, from discipline, from scars. Your identity must be forged so deeply into your being that when life rips everything away, you remain. That's the power of those who refuse to quit. They can lose everything and still walk forward, because their strength isn't built on sand. It's built on stone. The world breaks people who build their worth on outcomes. But it bows to those who build their worth on who they are. And who you are is decided not in victory but in struggle. Anyone can feel powerful when they win. But when you can look at failure, stare into the dark, and still say, "I'm not done," that's when your identity becomes a force the world can't move. You must stop asking, "What do I have?" and start declaring, "This is who I am. I am the one who does not quit. I am the one who rises when others fall. I am the one who builds when others run. I am the storm no one saw coming." This is not arrogance. This is ownership. This is identity forged through fire. When you know who you are, doubt loses its grip. Fear loses its voice. The world can throw stones, close doors, turn its back, and still you walk forward. Because identity isn't something they can take. It's something they can't touch. Identity is what keeps you steady when life tries to drown you. It's what tells you, "This pain does not define me. My response to it does." And when your response is strength, when your response is resilience, when your response is gratitude, your life becomes something unshakable. This is why the relentless rise. They rise not because the world gave them everything. They rise because the world threw everything at them, and they didn't break. They took pain and built power. They took rejection and built hunger. They took failure and built mastery. And this is where legacy begins. Legacy doesn't come from being lucky. It doesn't come from shortcuts. It doesn't come from temporary excitement. Legacy is the echo of persistence. It's the mark left by someone who refused to quit long after the crowd went home. Think of Napoleon Hill, whose words still shape lives a century after he wrote them. Think of Henry Ford, whose vision still moves wheels across the world. Think of Walt Disney, whose imagination still breathes in places he never lived to see. That's legacy. And it was built with the same weapon, refusing to quit. Legacy isn't just about what you build. It's about who you become. Because the person you become is the loudest message you'll ever leave behind. When people speak your name, they won't remember the trophies. They'll remember the fire. They'll remember the fight. They'll remember that when the world said no, you kept walking. This is why quitting is so tragic. Quitting doesn't just end a dream. It ends a legacy. It kills what could have been remembered forever. But when you keep going, when you push through, when you bleed and rise and refuse to break, your story outlives you. That is the power of the relentless. Power doesn't come from avoiding fear. It comes from walking through it with your head held high. Fear will always be there. It's the shadow that moves when you move. It whispers in the darkness. What if you fail? What if you're not enough? What if no one cares? But the relentless have learned something the rest of the world never dares to understand. Fear is a liar. It's loud, yes. But it has no teeth unless you give it permission to bite. The world belongs to those who stop running from fear and start hunting it down. They face it. They stare it in the eye. And they walk forward anyway. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward while your hands shake, while your heart pounds, while doubt screams. Courage is when quitting tries to wrap its hands around your throat, and you push it off and keep walking. Every person who has ever changed history has walked hand in hand with fear. Abraham Lincoln stood on battlefields not knowing if the nation would survive. Thomas Edison risked everything with no guarantee of success. Walt Disney built empires with empty pockets and 1,000 critics waiting to laugh. They didn't wait for fear to disappear. They walked through it until fear had no choice but to follow behind them. When you refuse to quit, fear slowly learns it can't control you. Doubt learns it can't own you. Insecurity learns it can't cage you. That's when real power begins to rise. Not the loud kind. Not the flashy kind. The kind that is carved in silence. The kind that walks into a storm and makes the storm step aside. The relentless carry something most people don't: certainty. Not certainty in the outcome, but certainty in themselves. They don't say, "I hope I make it." They say, "I'll keep walking until I do." They don't say, "I wish this works." They say, "It will work because I won't stop until it does." That kind of certainty is terrifying to the world because it can't be moved. It doesn't beg. It doesn't plead. It commands. Your destiny doesn't belong to luck. It doesn't belong to the fortunate. It belongs to those who look at fear, failure, rejection, and uncertainty, and still say, "This will not break me." That's where empires are born. That's where legacies are carved. That's where the unstoppable rise. When fear shows up, don't shrink. Expand. Don't whisper. Speak louder. Don't retreat. Advance. Because fear only grows when you give it ground. The moment you take it back, step by step, word by word, action by action, fear begins to crumble. It realizes it's standing in front of someone it cannot break. And when fear can't break you, the world begins to move differently around you. Doors that were closed begin to open. Opportunities that once felt far away begin to gravitate toward you. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. Because the universe recognizes power in motion. This is why the relentless look dangerous even when they're quiet. Because people can feel it, that unshakable force inside someone who has already decided that nothing will make them stop. You can't fake that energy. It's built through nights of doubt and days of pain. Through storms survived and walls broken. Through choosing again and again not to quit when quitting was easier. And here's the secret: the moment you stop giving fear your energy, all that power flows into your actions. You stop asking for permission to move. You stop explaining your fire to people who have never lit their own. You stop living small to make others comfortable. You walk like the mountain belongs to you because, deep down, it does. The world tries to convince you to play it safe, to fit in, to follow the path already paved. But the relentless were never made to fit in. They were made to stand out. To break patterns. To build empires out of broken bricks. To turn fear into fuel and doubt into a stepping stone. When you become that kind of person, the game changes. You no longer chase the world. The world starts chasing you. Opportunities begin to find the one who refuses to give up. Because persistence has a magnetic force. People respect it. Life bends toward it. Your greatest weapon is not perfection. It's not talent. It's your refusal to stop. That's what frightens fear itself. It can't win against someone who won't leave the fight. It can't outlast the one who keeps rising. It can't destroy the one who stands back up one more time than it can knock them down. So, when fear whispers, whisper back louder. When doubt pushes, push harder. When the world says no, become the storm that forces it to say yes. Because fear may roar, but it always bows to persistence. It always bows to action. It always bows to the one who refuses to quit. Every legend you admire had their moment of breaking. What made them legends wasn't that the moment didn't come, it's that they didn't let it define them. They stood where others fell. They moved when others froze. They believed when others doubted. And history carved their names in stone for it. You have that same fire. You have that same choice. And the world is waiting to see if you'll let fear lead you, or if you'll lead fear.